So Ric Flair, how did that happen? I got to hear the story on this one.
Tricky Ricky, as I like to call him. One of my other clients is Jaleel White, who very famously played Steve Urkel in Family Matters. Long story short, we were at a cannabis convention in Chicago. It was Rick, Mike Tyson, and Jaleel. And so I met Rick that way. He kept calling me young Brooke Shields and said he never got a chance to kiss Brooke Shields, so could we change it now? And I said...
Oh,
no,
Slick Rick.
no, we can't. But thank you for the offer. Thank you. Anyways, most of these stories start with me mouthing back off to these people. I think that's kind of the common theme of it.
Leaning closer. Your story, Mike and Scott. Let's talk.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the What's Your Story podcast. I'm Scott Leese. This is my good friend and co-host, Mike Lindstrom.
I'm here.
Representing the USA today.
Baby, 250 years, this country.
Big game coming up.
Big crowd. I know.
Game. All my Aussie friends are trying to give it to me right now. They think they're feeling pretty confident.
Ain't going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
It's going to be like 5-0.
5-0.
5-0. Well, dude,
you heard it here first.
We got 4 goals. I mean, that's great, right?
You heard it here first.
You did hear it.
Yeah. Wow.
Pretty pumped about today, by the way. Who
yeah.
we have here?
Well, her name is Alexy Posner.
Yeah, she's great.
Tell everybody what she does.
She's, I don't even want to say influencer, agency, brand manager, badass.
You think that we're big enough where she would manage our brand, do you think?
She might be able to do that. I mean, we could talk about that off camera, but she knows how to do the
Maybe we'll give her the pitch.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
We're excited to have her. Alexy Posner, welcome to the show.
Thank you guys for having me. That was quite the spastic intro. I loved everything about it.
That's how we do it. That's how we roll.
I loved everything about it. Thank you guys for having me. It's so fun to be here with you both.
Well, we start off every show by just trying to get to know people. That's the whole basis of our podcast is what's your story.
Awesome.
Right? You can take that question whatever direction you want. But who is Alexy? How did you get to where you are today?
Very open-ended question, but I'm here for it. Okay. So originally from Philly, I grew up riding horses. I was a professional athlete all the way up until 21 when my parents decided that my expensive habit was no longer needed to be funded because horses are quite expensive. But my whole existence was tied to my riding and to my sport. And so when that ended, I went through a very deep, dark depression, as so many people who tie their identity to something outside of their control can experience. And I had no idea who I was because for 20 some years, I'd introduce myself as, oh, I'm Alexy. I ride horses. That was who I was. And so knew I wanted to stay in something that was going to have my back against the wall and kind of this uphill climb. And I'm like, it's going to be sport. So was able to move into working in sport. I worked for a minor league baseball team, minor league hockey team, no soccer, but minor league baseball and hockey, and really quickly found that my story was not a very unique story, that the individuals that I was working with on these teams, I started at the Lancaster Barnstormers, which is an independent baseball team. So I have these guys that were playing for the team and they had won a World Series, had been MVP, had Darryl Ward hit the longest ball ever out of PNC Ballpark. And I'm like, why are you playing in Lancaster, Pennsylvania in the Atlantic League, making $1,700 a month? And every single story was, I don't know what else to do. This is all I know. This is all I know. And this was in 2012. And so at that point, social media was starting to creep up. We started to see Facebook. We started to see Instagram came forward. And I was like, I think my calling is working with athletes to help build their brand while they're actively playing, that when they're done playing, this doesn't feel like some rug got ripped out from underneath them, but that it actually is a brand based on passion and purpose that they step forward into. And so, started AP Brand Group 10 years ago and have been lucky enough to work with amazing athletes and talent building their brands based on their passion and purpose.
There was no sport specific, though. Baseball was there, but was there anything that you were like, I want to go into football or baseball? Was there any calling there, or was it just natural?
I am a very big believer in following what windows open. I don't think some big wide door ever really flies open for you, but just being attuned and available to, that window's there, and kind of following that lead. And so every single client has been word of mouth and have grown from there. But baseball is my first love. I love baseball. Watching Doc Holliday pitch as a younger person, he was probably my favorite baseball player ever to play. So fell in love with baseball a long time ago. Now, weirdly, don't work with any baseball players. I just work with all NFL guys. But
is that right?
Yeah, I have no baseball players, but I love my NFL boys. They're easy.
Is that strategic on your part to only work with NFL, or is that just the way that it's happening?
The way that it's flown. I mean, you guys said you may need representation. All of a sudden, I have a former soccer player that I'm working with. It's all just kind of word of mouth and how it's all flowed together.
So how did you make the leap?
This is a wild story. So worked for the Barnstormers, got fired from my job there. I've always been very loud, opinionated, and this idea of not being able to enact change is something that is really,
it's hard.
I really struggle with, and I don't love authority either. I don't work well for other people. So I got fired from the Barnstormers and I was devastated. Then went and worked very quickly for a nonprofit for like a month and got hired on by the Fightin' Phils. So then worked for the Phillies and then was scooped up out of there to go work for the Reading Royals, which is the ECHL hockey team. And I basically was working on all these jobs straight out of college. I'm making like $24,000 a year, $26,000. Finally for the Royals, I was making $31,000. And I'm like, I'm crushing it, bananas. My brother, side note, went into finance and made like 150 out of college. And my parents were like, good job, you. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? But so I was working for the Reading Royals and there was it felt like doors were constantly slamming. And I just was like, this doesn't feel right. Something I'm constantly being misunderstood. I don't know. I just wasn't the right spot. And I'm like, I am working my friggin' tail off, making no money, building something for someone else. Why am I not just betting on myself? If I'm going to make no money, I might as well make no money for myself, not make no money working for somebody else. And I have never been financially driven in that way, but it just logically, the bank isn't that full right now. So I think it's really time to kind of bet on myself. And so I ended up getting a job after the Reading Royals with Lee Steinberg, who works as
Oh, yeah.
So Lee, a very famous sports agent. His younger agent ended up texting me right before I moved out to California. So broke the lease on my apartment, packed everything up, was moving out to LA. And I got a text from him saying, opportunity off the table. My spirit number is 4. It was 4 words, text message on my 26th birthday. And I was like, okay, so clearly I'm not getting the signs loud enough. This is the loud enough sign from the universe saying, go bet on yourself, start your own thing. And I just kept hearing in my head, if not now, then when? If not now, then when? And so I called my parents. I moved back home with them. I'd left my house when I was 16. 10 years later, I'm moving back in. And I basically asked them if I could live there. And they said, we'll feed you and we'll house you, but you got to go back to school. You got to go do something. This is no shot. Is this ever going to work out? You're basically a loser and a failure. And I kind of said, watch me.
Yeah.
And now 10 years later, here's AP Brand
So what's your
Group.
relationship with Lee these days?
You know what? I see him at the Super Bowl every single year. I always give him a hug. I no hard feelings. And I am honestly so grateful for him and for Chris, because if I would have taken that role and moved out to LA, who knows where the path would have gone. It was the exact perfect thing that needed to happen. In the moment, I was sitting in an Eagles game, had many a drinks, and it was a Sunday on my birthday, and I'm like, holy smokes, I now am actually unemployed. What the hell am I going to do? So in that moment, if you would have asked me, I'm not sure what my answer would have been, but no, I'm so grateful for him. Chris is unbelievable what they've built, and it's exactly what needed to happen.
So Nick Lowry, who's been our guest on the show, he'll be in here today. He always comes on the show, loves being on the podcast. Lee wrote his foreword to his book.
Amazing.
That just came out.
Amazing.
And
so much
I hear all these
respect
great
for Lee.
stories about Lee.
Yeah.
I grew up in Northern California. I went to law school at San Diego, but some of my sports agent friends always talked about
He's the godfather of it all.
Let's be real.
Yes,
He's the guy that kind of built it all back.
Jerry Maguire based on his.
That's cool. That's a good story.
Yeah. So that's where it all started. So started
great.
AP Brand Group 10 years ago.
All right, so we have to go to this other thing real quick because we have to bring this up.
Okay.
The whole Swiftie thing. This is
Buckle up.
no, but everyone said you know about her doing this and doing this and doing that, and then I pull up Instagram and I'm like, what's going on here? I see her over here. She's with these athletes. She's at these games. And all of a sudden I see her at some place doing yoga and doing stuff with the Swiftie group. I got to hear the story. How this happened?
Sure. Yes,
It's
absolutely.
part of who you are, right?
Yeah. So AP Brand Group, athlete and talent management firm. 3 years ago, I added a production arm to it. So we also produce large scale events and activations. My personal passion, I love fitness. Obviously, growing up an athlete, that is what has always been a huge contributor to keeping my mental health in the best state possible. So I started coaching. I was in yoga and then I coached at Rumble. I did cycle. And anyway, a little over a year and a half ago, I started coaching an amazing place here in Phoenix called Groundwork. And I was like, how am I going to differentiate myself? And Groundwork it's dope. It's dark and sexy and moody and everyone's so hot. And I was like, I'm kind of pink. That's sort of my brand, bubbly and pink. And I love Taylor Swift. And I was like, build a brand off of her music and attract that group of people in. And so started doing these Swiftie Liftie events once a month. And then in January of this year, I officially launched Swiftie Liftie Club, which has kind of become this viral sensation. So we're taking it all over the world. And
Crazy.
Yeah. It's been really, really crazy and so fun. And it is my favorite thing, honestly, having people come up to me during class or after class and be like, this was the once a month I moved my body. I didn't know I could do that. Thank you. That brings me so much joy. Or seeing people that came to my January class and then they were just at May and they're like, I've been going to the gym every day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that makes my heart so happy. So we get women, men, kids. I have little girls that come to class that are 6 years old, all the way up to like 85-year-old women, all shapes, sizes, abilities. There's one rule of Swiftie Liftie Club, which is if you know the words, you got to sing. Outside of that, I could care less what
That's
you
it.
do. That's
the
it.
only rule. So I'm fascinated with this. I mean, I'm really fascinated by this.
Right, because she's the greatest marketer of all time, Taylor Swift. Yes,
100%. I'm a big fan. What is it about that, though? You're a brander. So let's talk about branding. Let's put your expert hat on.
Yeah, 100%.
What is she doing? There's people who may not like her, certain men or football or whatever, but she's done something amazing. What is it about her?
I think this is where we've seen the success with Swiftie Liftie Club. We say it has nothing to do with the actual workout, right? Anybody could get up there and play a Taylor song and grab some bands and tell someone to do jump squats, right? It's not that. It's that we've tapped into the ethos of the community. That is what she has built. She's built this incredible network of humans that all they want to do is just connect with each other, right? And it's so positive. In the Swiftie world, no one's looking at somebody else and being, oh, that girl this or this guy that. It's all about connection and community. And I think at our deepest human core, that's truly what we all want, right? We want to have that common ground. We want to be able to just genuinely be like, oh my God, you love Taylor. Here's a friendship bracelet. Okay, I'll take one too. And it's just this really positive piece. So yeah, her genius comes from the ability that she's built this amazing community.
Is there an athlete out there doing something
Great question.
similar
Ooh.
trying
that's
to
such
do
a good
something similar? Or is it even possible?
Yeah, how do you
athlete?
translate that? Because you know this.
So, I mean, the obvious answer would be what the Kelseys have done, but that's still part of the Swiftie effect of it all. One of my own clients, Mack Hollins, is probably my favorite example, played for the Bills.
Oh, yeah.
Mack hasn't created quite the same insane fandom, but what he's done really well is stick to his authenticity.
Yeah.
What you see with Mack is what you get. He says no to more deals. I don't think anyone else could manage him but me because he turns down so much. But he is what you see on camera, the eating with your hands, the not wearing shoes, that sort of caveman-y vibe. When the cameras aren't,
He's one of my favorite players when
it's
he's on the
classic.
Bills.
Gritty, the best. And when the cameras aren't on him, he's the exact same person. The mad scientist thing, totally him, all of it. So I think what he's done a really great job is build a brand. I mean, obviously we built it together and have been working together for a long time, but on authenticity first, ability to say no second. He's been really unapologetic about what he stands for. And I think that's a really cool thing. And kind of similar to Taylor Swift, she is who she is and stands in that lane. And I think that's where you can kind of see that translation.
So how'd you meet him, by the way?
Oh, Mack. Yeah. So Mack and I've been working together for 9 years. So pretty much his whole entire career, which is really cool. We build everything from the ground up. He came out to set of American Ninja Warrior. My first client is Akbar Bajamila. 10 years later, we're still working together. And Mack came out to the set of American Ninja Warrior with a bunch of other NFL guys when we were taping in LA. And I was wearing knockoff Balenciaga sneakers. And he made fun of me me and was, oh, I see you, big money, with your Balenciaga sneakers. Me, being from Philly, chirped immediately back at him. And he was like, oh, you're funny. And I was like, hi, yeah, whatever. And so we exchanged information. I said, if you want to get together, I live in Philly. And at that time, he was playing for the Birds. We had dinner and kind of started talking, and it snowballed from there. But yeah, he's a character. He's the best.
Yeah.
Best. Total character.
I know you're a big fan of him, right?
My whole family is originally from Buffalo, Niagara Falls area. And my kids and I were devastated when he left Buffalo to go to the Patriots. He hopefully doesn't get too mad at me, but he's now a superstar wide receiver. He does a lot of the unsung dirty things.
Yeah.
And he's a high character contributor to the team. And, he's a good blocker, and we were just crushed. And of all things, he went to the Patriots, which was just, dude.
And then they went to the
seriously,
Super
dude?
Bowl.
Yeah.
Well,
but they lost.
Like, I should just stuck that in there.
I know. Everybody has to. Everybody wants to. It's fine. I get it.
No.
So Ric Flair? All right. First of all, I met Ric Flair.
Ricky.
True story, man. I met him in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina in I remember I was in college. My uncle used to live out there. We were at this little rinky-dink bar on the beach, and all of a sudden we hear this background, woo! Out of nowhere. I'm like, what the hell is that? And I looked him. I knew who he was, and I knew that sound. Yeah. And I looked back, my friend Paul Sheila and I looked back and I go, oh my God, that's Ric Flair. And no one in the bar really knew who he was.
Yeah.
We went up to him, and he was the coolest guy, took pictures, just the nicest guy. So how did that happen? I got to hear the story on this one.
Oh, goodness. So Tricky Ricky, as I like to call him. One of my other clients is Jaleel White, who very famously played Steve Urkel in Family Matters. Jaleel's gone on to have a huge acting and hosting career. But we started a cannabis line together, Jaleel and I, called Purple Urkel. Long story short, we were at a cannabis convention in Chicago, and Rick was there. It was Rick, Mike Tyson, and Jaleel. And so I met Rick that way. He kept calling me young Brooke Shields and said he never got a chance to kiss Brooke Shields, so could we change it now? And I said, no,
Slick Rick.
No, we can't. But thank you for the offer. Thank you anyways. So anyway, I found him just so funny and amusing. I didn't really grow up a WWE, WWF fan. He's iconic. Everyone knows who Ric Flair is pretty much. But I wasn't one of those things where I was, some super fan. And most of these stories start with me mouthing back off to these people. I think that's kind of the common theme of it.
Where the rapport
that's 100%.
Yeah.
I want to ask the business-related question.
Yes,
You're talking about Mack kind of declining offers and all this kind of thing. It's interesting when you represent people because obviously the more deals they do, the more you earn.
Yeah.
But you have to get away from the transactional mindset and mentality of,
100.
oh, cool, here's $1 million in my pocket today versus you took that and it just cost you 30 because you took your brand in a different direction. How do you manage that with your clients, athletes, actors, and whatnot? Do you struggle sometimes with them wanting this money now versus having a long-term vision, or is it the opposite?
Yeah.
Where they have that vision more and you're like, no, I want it now.
So I kind of made a commitment very early on in my career that I was never going to chase dollars. I think from a vibrational and energetic standpoint, when you're constantly mining, if it's must get more money, you're going to start to make the wrong decisions. What you put out there is what you get back. I deeply, deeply, deeply believe that. And whether people want to call me woo-woo for that, it is truly what you put out there, right? It's kind of like dating, right? If I'm walking into a bar being like, oh my God, I have to find my husband, men are going to walk very far away from me. But if you walk in and you're confident and cool and just know who you are and stick to that, that's what starts to attract the right people in. And so I very much so have that same mentality when it comes to business. With that said, all of my clients also have that same commitment. And I will tell people, I get calls. I feel very lucky. I get calls all the time, people wanting me to work with them. And I'm like, listen, I probably am not going to make you the most amount of money in the next 6 months. But if you give me a year with you, in a year and a half, you're going to be like, oh shit, I have a brand. I really have created something awesome. So I've always tried to kind of be more on the long game of it. But yes, Mac does drive me crazy every once in a while. There are certain ones where I'm like, please, let's just take this. This really does make so much sense. But he's my very opinionated, and he'll be the first to admit it.
That's a good way of putting it. This makes so much sense. I got to use that.
I'm gonna steal that phrase.
That's good. So I was thinking about when you were talking about that, I have this thing that I use in my work. It's called the gas factor, give a shit factor. When your give a shit factor is really high, you really want something that's purpose driven, you're passionate about it. But But there's also the opposite of it. When you just don't give a shit, it's like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So your concept of, hey, I don't really think about the money and the deal because I don't really give a shit about that. I care about the purpose, the brand, and what you're creating. So there's always this toggle between, is the gas factor high or low?
Yeah.
But the fact that you're able to track things in your life, because just even the vibe that I've, in the last hour that we've met, I can tell she doesn't give a shit. She's just going to be herself.
Yeah.
Take her or leave it.
Yeah.
And that's attractive to people.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. I think it's also standing for your worth, which is something for me personally I've battled with when it comes to my own, what I should be charging for something. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little bit deeper in my own roots of being able to kind of stand for that. But it's very funny how brands, you're like, nope, sorry, we're not going to do that. And Mack and I laugh all the time. We're like, well, I guess they really wanted him because they'll come back and actually pay the values that's supposed to be paid. And so, yeah, I'm kind of constantly juggling in that realm.
Yeah. Who are some of your big influences outside of some of the names you've mentioned already, but parents, those things that you were taught at a young age that you still live by? Standards, values, rules, influences that you had?
So my mother is incredible. She is a neuroradiologist, runs a residency program at Penn, has out-earned my father my whole life. She's a badass. Not the most warm and fuzzy human you'll ever meet. So some of my more spicy qualities also come from her. But from a very young age, her work ethic is, I've never seen anything like it. So I attribute pretty much all of this to her, she always had my childhood room. I didn't have pinks and unicorns and anything. I had pencils and books. And so I had to be a top student. And she was always like, you're going to be the ruler of the universe. And I think hearing that from her at a very young age was really instrumental.
Is that what she would tell you that?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Wow.
She's like, you can do anything. Just so she's definitely a huge contributing factor. She's very, very, very spicy and tough. Don't get me wrong. I'd get a 98 and she'd be like, what happened to the other 2 points?
Wow.
So there's the other side of the sword, but I have 3 incredible older sisters and a little brother who's my best friend. And my older sisters were more of the warm, fuzzy mom side. And then my mom kind of taught me how to be a badass.
So the brother, how far are you apart in age?
So he is 33. He's my best friend in the whole world. And then my sisters are a little bit older than me. So there's like a 10-year age gap. And then it starts my 3 older sisters. Yeah.
So what's the biggest thing your brothers taught you? Just about boys, men?
My little brother, oh my gosh. He is the funniest, quirkiest guy. He's incredibly smart. He started his own private equity firm and is unbelievably successful. What's the biggest thing he's taught me? He honestly is the most unapologetic of who he is. He's so quirky and weird. He may slightly be on the spectrum. He is who he is and is totally okay with that. And I think that's something I've really admired about him, even if it makes people feel a little like, what is this guy up to? He's just quite an odd bird. So,
well, I can't remember where I first heard this, but everybody has a brand.
Yep.
Yes.
You have it whether you think you do or not.
Yep.
Not everybody does something with it. Not everybody kind of controls that narrative. So let's say there's fledgling athletes out there.
Yeah.
At what point do you think somebody should start to take control of a brand? Is it before you're getting recruited, before you sign, before you go pro?
Yeah.
Is it a certain level of notoriety that you've already received, certain number of followers? How does somebody know, oh shit, now is the time I should actually do something about this?
I mean, I think like you said, everyone has a brand. And so your son is a great example. I know he's starting to look at colleges and is a star athlete. Right now, even having those workshop moments with him. And one of the first things I have any athlete do is, do you remember in elementary school where you do a word bubble? You do like your name in the middle, do something in the middle, and then you do this spider web. And so one of the first things I do with any of the athletes is I'm like, let's make a spider web together. I want you to tell me everything you love, do, care about, passionate about, think of, eat. I don't care what it is. Let's just get everything in one spot. Because I think sometimes people get a little paralyzed at what is their brand, and it actually can be right on the page in front of you. And so then once all that's down there, you can start to pull and be like, oh, you know what, and this is the other biggest piece I could say is some things are part of a public brand. Some things are part of who you intrinsically are, but you don't need to share that publicly. Faith is one that is, I see people toggle back and forth all the time. Faith may be something so deeply important to you and your core, but maybe not something that publicly gets talked about. So as you look at that spider web and start to kind of figure out what is there, then the next question is, okay, now what do I actually want someone to know about me? because that's ultimately what building a brand is. It's creating an emotion through consumer engagement platforms, right? So if we look at all those consumer engagement touch points, that's social media, that's media relations, it's public relations, et cetera, brand deals. What do I want those consumers to know and ultimately feel about me? If it's, do I want them to giggle, whatever that is. I hope people leave a conversation with me and they're like, she was just a bright light of wacky energy. And I have hot pink in my brand for a reason. So to flip back to your point, there's no age or moment or followership. It's really just, hey, I'm now really serious and dedicated to doing something bigger than just showing up every day.
Is there a particular platform or process that's right for each person, or is it more generalized? No, everybody should attack it this kind of way. If you were going to build a brand for me and then Mike separate, is it, this is the roadmap, or is it no, Scott goes this way, Mike goes that way, and here's the reasons why? Yeah,
I think it depends on who the consumer is that you guys are trying to reach. For you two specifically, we would dive into what's your listenership and where are they living and where are they consuming that information. But the short answer is only do as much as you're going to do well, right? So Brandon Cooks, worked with him for a very long time, and he's like, oh, should we start a YouTube channel? And we've got all these really cool ideas. We really want to start a YouTube channel. Now we're sitting down and going, what does that actually mean to be successful? And can we make a commitment to the success of that?
Can you do it right?
And if not, let's not do it. I would rather somebody only run a TikTok or an Instagram or a Facebook or whatever that is. You got to do it right, you know?
Yeah.
Versus it's that very simple concept. I'd rather dig 100-foot hole than 101-foot holes.
I have a little bit of Brandon Cook's PTSD right now.
A little bit.
He's the one that caught the ball.
He caught the ball. Let's double down on that statement, please. Thank you.
But the referees in Denver decided otherwise.
I watched the game.
Yeah.
It's tough.
There's a lot of PTSD. There's a lot of Buffalo PTSD
that
week
in this after we were filming, this guy was a mess. I couldn't even talk to him. I couldn't even look at him.
That was
fair.
That game, I sat there and I was just in shock.
Tell Brandon I'm with him. Tell Brandon I'm with him.
Let him know. Well,
let's not go down that rabbit hole thing. That's where I look at some leagues and go, just wondering how that happened. You know, with the NBA, everyone wants game 6, game 7 because NBA wants to make that money. They don't want to sweep ever.
Yeah.
So you always question it. That was a catch. That was a catch, by the way. All right. So podcasts, I'm curious.
Yes.
So we started ours 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And it was something we've talked about for a long time, and we've done it in our own independent ways. We said, let's do this. Let's push all in.
That's awesome.
Somebody comes to you and says, I want to do a podcast. Or you, by the way, you're an amazing brand. You should have your own podcast, right? I'm not coaching you, but you could. You could easily do it. You can bring all these famous people in. You have a great personality.
Thanks.
What's your stance on that from a branding, marketing perspective when people are coming to you and saying, hey, I need to do a podcast because everyone's doing a podcast?
My first question would be, what's your social look like? Because I think podcasts in general, now what we've seen across the board is there's less consumption of a podcast for the entire episode and more the strategy is, can you create 10 to 12 clips per episode that live successfully on Instagram and TikTok specifically and YouTube Shorts that give people the understanding of what has just happened in that episode without them actually watching it. And honestly, that's where the brands are also looking at. I think once you want the brand engagement in terms of the money side, it's like 200,000 downloads, 150,000 downloads. But really where someone who's wanting to start a podcast could move the needle. I look at our Swiftie Liftie Club account. We have 5,000 followers. I started it January 1st. Wow. We have really focused on that. And in the last 3 months, the views are like 850,000 views. Our engagement is bananas.
Yeah.
And so because we put a lot of focus and energy and attention on building that. And so I think if you want to do a podcast, my first question is, how's your social? What's your social? And what's your plan on social? Because that's really where you're going to see actual success for the time. Otherwise, you're just talking for an hour.
Yeah, I think people don't realize how hard it is.
Hard.
Scott and I didn't realize that.
Well, I think people don't realize there's a strategy behind it all.
Yeah.
It's
not more than just turn the camera on, record something, and then let's see what happens. Like, that one went off. It went viral. We're onto something.
The challenge is you got people like Gary Vaynerchuk, who I love. Gary V. He's awesome. Gary's always just record it, put it out there. Record it, put it out there. You need content. And I think people were just getting brainwashed with that with Instagram and TikTok. And they were I can do it. Gary Vaynerchuk said I could do it. But there's more to it. There's got to be a person like you behind saying, team, time out. There's a strategy here.
Yeah.
We're not just because you can catch a football, it doesn't mean you can go have a podcast.
Right.
You have to have something behind it. So I was just curious your take on that.
I mean, it's a super saturated market, as we all know, but there's always room, right? And I think that was the biggest thing for me. Even when I was starting my company, I made a commitment to, if you, again, walk through the world thinking it's already full up top and there's no space, there will be no space. And so kind of same thing. Yes, podcasts, we know it's a super saturated market. So figure out where the space is. What's the window there for you? And what's a little different that you're going to take? What lens are you taking there? Yep. And then have an actual strategy on execution behind it. Yep. The last piece is a continued commitment to that strategy, because you're going to fail. We have videos that flop on our Swiftie page, and I'm so excited. I think this is going to be the best video ever. And then it totally flops. There are moments where I have to be like, okay, recommit. Let's go. So I'd say that also with the podcast side.
We've had that same thing where we post stuff where you post.
Oh, yeah, and the opposite, of course.
It's completely random, and I'm like, oh, that's going to go nowhere. And next thing you know, it's like, did we get 1 million views on this thing? I'm like, last month, but you did. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. Boy, I got to check this out.
You're touching a nerve.
Check it.
You touch a nerve with people. I mean, but you never know.
Yeah.
So when you overthink it, you try to be over strategic. Yeah. Those are the ones that usually backfire.
Yeah. And sometimes the algorithm just doesn't work in your favor. Don't listen to this phone. I'm like, let me just block my phone while I say that. I'm like, I love you, Instagram. Keep favoring my videos.
I got to ask you about horses. So how'd that come into your life? My dad owned horses in California.
Cool. Standardbreds or thoroughbreds?
So thoroughbreds, yeah. Okay. He was in Bay Meadows, Gold Gate Fields, Del Mar, some of the West Coast, Santa Anita. How'd that happen?
It's so crazy. This feels like a lifetime ago. So even talking about it's so bizarre. But my grandpa put me on a pony when I was 3 years old, and I basically just never got off. He bred standardbreds and raced standardbreds, and against my mother's want, I was 3, and he literally popped me up on a pony, and he bought me my first pony, Molly McButter, and I fell in love. So yeah, I love horses, and it was the best way I could have ever possibly grown up. And then became very competitive and would spend my summers in Europe competing, my winters in Wellington, which is why I graduated really young. I graduated at 16 from high school, and then thankfully I went to Franklin and Marshall. Then they were a little flexy on my class schedule. So during the winter semester, I would take class on Monday afternoons, Tuesdays, and Wednesday mornings, and I would be in Florida the rest of the week. So I was flying back and forth, and I've kind of lived on an airplane. I still live on an airplane. Seat 1F or 8C are my 2 seats on American. I'm still waiting for my sponsorship.
It's funny how you have certain seat slots. Do you have certain seats?
If I don't sit in those 2 seats, I'm like, what's happening?
Feels weird, right?
It's very strange when you fly as much as we probably all do. Yeah. Yeah. So that's where the horses came from.
Do you still go out and is that your solace? Is that where you?
No, I technically retired when I was 21, and I rode for a private family up until about 25. And then actually when I was starting AP Brand Group, I knew I needed to make money. So I bartended, and then I worked on a farm and muck stalls to kind of just keep money coming in as I was starting AP Brand Group. But yeah, the plan, maybe when I turn 40. Right now I'm 35. I've got a lot on my plate, and I don't know if I could get back into it and not be uber competitive with it. So I think I would really struggle not being good. So
you seem like the kind of person that you're all in.
Yes. It's a 0 or it's 100.
Yeah.
I'm trying to work on the middle.
Yeah, we all are.
Not my strength.
Not my strength either.
Not my strength. You're all in or all out, you know?
I've been told many times you have 2 speeds, Scott. Dead stop or full speed ahead.
Yes.
That's it.
And honestly, I'm kind of okay with that.
I have been okay with it for most of my life, but now I'm getting to an age where I'm like, maybe that's not
How old
the
are you
only
now?
way. I turned 49 at the end of the month.
Okay.
I'm 53.
That's one of the hard things about scaling your own business, which I'm sure you're running into, is how do you scale yourself, and how do you make these decisions in terms of that would make sense for the business, but I don't know if that makes sense for me right now.
Yeah. I think sticking to the non-negotiables, for me, I wake up at 4:44 every morning. I have to work out every morning, first thing. And so really knowing what are my non-negotiables that set me up personally for success. I stopped drinking 2 years ago. So just kind of being in environments that I know maybe are not kind of conducive to where I'm at personally now. So really sticking to the non-negotiables has helped me a lot. So that, even if I'm waking up in Austin or I'm waking up in London, having my set morning non-negotiables is, and the first thing I do, even if I stay in a hotel, is make my bed. Before I put my contacts in, I'm so weird. I always make the bed because I start the day with an accomplishment, and then it's a really positive moment. And I'm like, hell yeah.
Got to win.
Good job. Got to win on the books before I can even see a darn thing, you know?
Do you make your bed when you wake up?
I don't.
You
Dude,
don't?
what are you doing?
Are you serious?
I don't.
So I'm with her.
You have to start your day.
100%.
Because it automatically gives you that dopamine hit.
I understand the psychology.
Even at a hotel.
I do.
Even in a hotel.
Even in a hotel.
Always reorganized, nice. And then I'm like,
when I leave a hotel, the
day.
maids must come in and go, this dude's nuts. It's clean. Towels are in one little pile over here. I put the tip by the TV. Everything's in the order of which I came in. Right?
Yep. Yeah. I'm a little more chaos, but in an organized way.
Yeah. So what's the next chapter? I'm thinking ahead because I'm a little bit older, right? So I'm thinking, okay, when I was her age, what was I thinking about? I always think about life in fives. The 35, 40, 45, 50. Next stop for me is 55.
Yeah.
So what's the next chapter for you?
I'm definitely trying to find my husband. So if you guys know anybody, let me know on that. On a professional side, it's been really cool. I have an amazing VP, Ashley. She's been with me for 3 years, and she has grown and developed into such a powerhouse herself. And so that is allowing me to scale. It's allowing me to kind of pursue other passions. It's allowing me to kind of step in other directions and actually explore a personal life for the first time ever in my life, which is really, really nice because I've kind of built and poured everything into the business side. But yeah, next 5 years, keep growing AP Brand Group. We've got a very, very, very exciting project for Rick on the books right now. So we are working on a movie for him with $7. So I did the deal with Dwayne Johnson's team. And we'll have a movie that is going to be a grand success. You will see that in that 5-year plan, hopefully in the 1.5-year plan. Yeah.
We're big fans. So we had Mark Kerr, who the Smashing Machine sat on that couch with his wife Francie last year. And he told so many cool stories about Dwayne Johnson. He calls him DJ.
Yeah, DJ.
Best guy. And this, that, and the other. But to picture somebody's life story, Rick or Mark Kerr for that example.
An honor of my career, for
sure.
To be
a part of that. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's been a long road and has taught me a lot of patience, but has definitely been an honor in my career being able to move that across the finish line. And the coolest moment was 2 years ago when the deal was done that I did with $7. First of all, the press release came out and it was my name was at the bottom of it, done by Alexy Posner and AP Brand Group.
So
made
good.
it. But DJ sent me and Rick a voice note and was like, "Hey, Alexy. Hey, Rick. It's The Rock here." And I was like, "Do I have his personal cell phone number? This is insane." So yeah, it's been.
Do you know who's going to direct it? Is it Safdie or?
Nope, not yet. We've got a lot of very cool things in the works, and I'll give you guys an update when we get to a place that I can. Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, tell everybody about the next Swiftie event here.
So sweet. I mean, please cheer for all my clients during the football season. So Mack Hollins, Brandon Cooks. Fingers crossed. I don't know where he's landing yet. Well, we do, but I can't say anything yet. Jake Martin, I've got some amazing clients. Rucci Brothers, they're really cool. Yeah, so please cheer for all of them. In terms of upcoming stuff, Swiftie Liftie Club is on the road. So coming to a city near you, please follow us on Instagram. We are heavy in the Arizona market, but we do stuff all over now the globe. So our next one is in London, and then we got a couple here in Arizona. We go to New York, Charlotte, Nashville, Chicago. So yeah, follow me on Instagram.
What's your primary social? Instagram?
Yes, Instagram.
What's the handle?
So either Alexy Posner on Instagram or Swiftie Liftie Club on Instagram. If you're a Swiftie, go there. If you want sports, go to Alexy Posner's side.
All right. So I always love asking this question. Favorite book that ever influenced you in your life?
These are two separate answers. Favorite book is Harry Potter. I've read them all 20-some times, 22 times straight through. Stop looking at me like that. The amount of judgment that I have gotten from this man, he is sitting here like...
Well, to be fair, she walked in and soccer shirt on, and she's like, I don't like soccer.
I was like, I just don't get it. I don't get it. I got to get in.
I don't get Harry Potter.
It's all good. All right.
I'm getting Harry Potter.
We're just going to take him out of the conversation for just a second.
We'll deal with this in post. We'll just delete that part.
Holy moly. No, so I'm Harry Potter. The book that influenced me the most, it's 2 books. I couldn't narrow it down. The 4 Agreements and The Alchemist.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
so both of those.
You're an alchemist.
Yes. Big fan of The Alchemist. I recommend reading it on book on tape. Jim Dale, who also does the Harry Potter books, narrates it on the audiobook, and it is magnificent. And then, of course, the 4 Agreements.
Yeah, 4 Agreements are great.
Life-changing. Love it.
All right, well, we thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for having me.
A lot of fun.
Good.
Banter is great.
Yeah.
Has a little bit of Philly, a little bit of New York. Going back and forth.
I like Philly, man. Come on.
Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us on this episode of the What's Your Story podcast. I'm Scott Leese. That's Mike Lindstrom. That was Alexy Posner. Follow her on Instagram. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, all these places that we are. And we'll see you next time.
Peace. Hey, everyone. Mike Lindstrom here. Thanks for tuning in to What's Your Story with Mike and Scott. Make sure to hit the subscribe button for new episodes every Tuesday morning and check out a few of our previous episodes below. We'll see you next time.